the first things we're going to do today is think about what we've learned so far. So I've put some photographs up here from our last two modules to remind you of all the fun we had. But I wanted hopefully to inspire you to kind of think about what we've learned over the last couple of modules, and of course thinking about your own experience of teaching, so that we can start to bring that together. I mean, the main goal of this week is to get you all ready for your fellowship applications. Okay, so once we get a few more people here, we'll start thinking about how far you are along in that process, and some of your target dates for completion. So have a look at these photographs and start thinking about what we've learned over the last couple of weeks. We're going to try and collate that together into some kind of process. It's going to be a bit of a challenge because the room set up, and we'll work around that. Some more people coming in. Did any of you see my messages on the virtual learning environment? So did any of you bring something in that is like an artifact or an object about your teaching? That was all too much of a challenge. Okay, I thought that might be the case, so we will push that challenge back till tomorrow, and I shall give you some examples. I didn't mean to kind of post again with an example of what my one would be, so but ran out of time, so I'll let you off that one. Okay, well, we'll make a little bit of a start, and hopefully some more people will be along shortly. So welcome all back. It's lovely to see you all again, and I hope you've all had a wonderful summer break, and you haven't spent the whole 3 months since I last saw you writing your fellowship application. As part of this morning, we'll have a review and think about where we are in terms of writing applications and what support you want to go forward. As I said to some of you as you came in, the main goal this week is to get everybody ready, so at the end of it, all you need to do is just go and write and put everything in place. You have a clear idea of what it is you're going to write and what it is you have to do to finish. But the title of this module is thinking about quality in teaching and assessment. Okay, so we'll be talking a little bit about that today, but really as a backdrop for how you develop the narrative of your fellowship application. I think it's too far away. Okay, so the main sort of aims of this week then, or today rather, is we're going to review what we learned in modules 1 and 2. And that's why I kind of put that slideshow up at the beginning, just to kind of, it seems like an awful long time ago in June, and even further back to April, to try and prompt you to think about some of the things that we've thought about, some of the things that we've talked about. We'll then review your progress on your fellowship application. And then today I'll talk about what the aims of this module are, what we're going to achieve in a little bit more detail. And then we're going to spend this afternoon looking a little bit about quality assurance and enhancement, okay? And thinking about what steps you're taking to enhance your practice. This is not going to work, unfortunately. You've all got all of this information in your handbooks on the virtual learning environment, so I appreciate it's too small for you to read up here. But in Module 1, we kind of thought about how students learn and try to map that to how we taught. We sort of talked about how we create effective learning environments. This is not a very effective learning environment, so hopefully we're going to break out of here. But these are the challenges you face. So how do you manage a space like this if this is what you're given? Okay. Thinking about your own professional values and the ethics of how you teach and how you manage people and groups. And we also spoke about assessment for learning. Okay, can anybody remind us what assessment for learning was? I know, it's a long time ago. You all had a lovely summer. What's the difference between assessment for learning and assessment of learning?
It's about designing for assessments in order to enhance teaching.
Yes, yes.
Not about the outcome only.
Yes, exactly, that's it, yeah.
Examination.
Yes, that's it. So it's not the summative, this is what you've learnt. It's not just measuring what the students have learnt, it's making sure that all of your assessment promotes students to learn the type of things that you want them to know. Okay? And about reflection. Okay, and we talked a lot about reflection and how it's really the cornerstone of our practice, and it should be like the central part of your fellowship application. In Module 2 then we went on to a little bit more about how our curriculum all kind of maps together. So thinking about the content knowledge that we want students to learn and the threshold concepts that were key to our disciplines, and then thinking about the skills and attributes that we want them to develop whilst they were learning, and how we bring all that together, you know, into a bigger picture. How do we work with our colleagues to make sure that the graduates are developing overall the skills and knowledge that they need. And several of you added to the document on what you think the graduate attributes should be. So we've got 2 examples from Bay Kent and 2 examples from, how do you say the other one? Dugash? How do you pronounce it? Dosh. Okay. I'll never get that. So thinking about the graduate attributes that you want your students to achieve, and if you haven't contributed to those, it's really worth having a look and seeing what other people think, and you can edit those documents and you can put comments on them, so it's quite a useful collaborative process, and we'll certainly build on that. We thought about, yes, teaching in the different disciplines, so there were obviously differences between how you taught science, how you taught engineering, how you taught dentistry, how you taught architecture and humanities and fashion and all of the different wonderful subjects that you all teach. And we kind of talked a little bit about teaching skills, and certainly that should kind of build into your peer reviews. Now I appreciate, I don't suppose any of you have had the opportunity to do peer reviews since I was last here, because none of you have been doing any teaching. So I didn't design the programme, so I kind of thought that was not going to happen, but anyway. But thinking about how you engage with students in the classroom, and I think it's one of those things that we all strive to get better at all of the time. My big thing, and you can all shout at me because I'm not very good at it, is I speak far too quickly. And particularly when I'm speaking where English is not your first language, I'm sure I speak far too quickly for you. So you can just tell me to shut up and slow down, because it's something I personally am always trying to improve. But we can think about lots of different things in our teaching skills. How we're using images, how we're using artifacts, how we're using activities to engage students with topics. And then in Module 2 then we looked at assessment of learning, and we did an audit of our assessment practices, and we thought about what it was the assessment was trying to do. So can anybody remember any of the key features of assessment that we were trying to achieve? You remember that grid that we had, and you put all of your different types of assessment down one side? Authenticity, yeah.
Reliability.
Reliability and validity, yes. Can you remember what those mean? Transparency, yes. Is manageable, yes, that's a big one.
Reliability.
And reliable, yeah, we had that one, yeah. Any others?
Validity.
Validity, yeah.
Veracity.
Yes, very, yeah. Is it actually the students that did it? Yeah. Good stuff. So now I'm really impressed you remembering all this stuff. I had to look and see what we did. So okay. So what are we going to do this week? It's listed on there. Thinking about quality assurance, which I find it incredibly dull. So we're kind of going to try and do that in a slightly imaginative way. But thinking about how you ensure that you're teaching, that your graduates in engineering, you know, how do you know they're as good as graduates in engineering from another university in Turkey, a university in the UK, and a university in America? You know, what is it that we do to ensure that our standards are globally recognised and appropriate? And thinking about your personal philosophy, which is why I wanted you to bring an artifact in, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. When you're writing your fellowship, it's really important, I think, to start off with an understanding of what your personal philosophy is for teaching and learning. What is it you think you're trying to achieve? And if you've got that as a backbone to your fellowship, it makes the writing a lot easier, because you can sort of put everything onto that line of, this is what I believe, and therefore this is why I'm doing this, and this is why I know it works. Yeah. So it just helps you write your story if you keep your own personal philosophy threading through it. And then we'll talk about your professional development going forward from this course onwards, and your successful fellowship applications. So that's really where we're at. I hate this thing. Okay, and so that really just sums up what we should have done in terms of practical learning. So I appreciate that the practical learning, you won't have done the peer observations in between Module 2 and Module 3. But have you all got, you need to bring those in tomorrow, any peer observations that you did from before. So has everybody got at least one peer observation from a colleague that they did in Module 2? Okay, so you need to bring those in tomorrow. Okay? We'll talk about that a bit later on. Does anybody not have any peer observations at all? Okay. Does anybody not have any peer observations?
I had the one that I observed, the person that I observed isn't here.
So they haven't observed you?
Yes, they observed me and I observed her.
Okay.
She's not here now.
Oh, okay. Right. But did she give you the feedback?
I just had the one that I observed her.
Oh, okay. But you haven't got your own feedback?
I don't have my own.
Right. Okay. So can you put your hand up if you don't have any feedback from somebody on your teaching? You don't have any yourself? No.
Because we didn't do that.
Okay.
It was hard on, yeah.
There were no lectures.
Yes, because
Yeah, but you didn't do any in the bit before. Okay, we'll have a bit of a change, I think, then. What we're going to do. I'm so flexible. We might do, I tell you what we'll do a micro teach. Do you know what micro teaching is? Okay, so you'll all, I'll give you till, maybe we'll do that on Wednesday. Right, I'll have a think about that over lunchtime and think about how we might plan it. But I'm going to ask you to teach something to the class, and then you can get feedback in small groups. So everybody has got some peer observation to work on. But don't panic. So I'll think about that at lunchtime. We can shift that around, because I think it's important that you've got some kind of feedback to work on. Otherwise, some of the parts of the stuff we're going to do tomorrow won't work very well. Okay, insanity. Some people say this quote's was from Einstein. Other people accredit it to other people, but we'll assume that Einstein did say it, just for the sake of having a nice picture of Einstein and feeling very academic. So you're all familiar with this quote? Okay. So this is going to be at the heart of what we're doing today. And we can think about some of the madness that we do when we're teaching. We keep doing the same thing over and over again, even though we maybe think that it's not the most effective way of doing stuff, because we don't take time out to think, stop, let's do something different, like this is not working, which is the kind of the reflective part of the cycle. Okay? But some of the madness that we've talked about, that we explored, already talked about in modules 1 and 2. Lecturing, that kind of just standing, doing what I'm doing now, providing a monologue, just giving you content, giving you information. You know, I'm okay, I've only been doing it for 5 minutes, you're all still awake, but another 5 minutes I'll start to lose you. You know, no active learning, no kind of engagement with the content. Assessment, designing tasks that don't really engage students. They're doing tasks that they're never ever going to have to do again in their lives, like writing essays or multiple choice questions or whatever. They're not engaging, they're not encouraging the students to develop the graduate attributes that we want them to develop. and then they might be incredibly time consuming to mark. So we're spending a huge amount of time marking stuff that the students didn't learn from producing. Exam scripts would be a prime example. They're a lovely distant memory now. 3 months ago you were spending weeks, days and hours marking exam scripts and providing feedback on them that student didn't read. So that's the next one. Providing feedback on, on essays or exam scripts that students don't see. It's after the fact. They've forgotten about that module. For them, they've put it behind them. So you're spending time providing feedback. They don't read it. They don't understand what they're supposed to do with it, importantly, for feedback that you're providing in the module. They don't know how to act on it to improve. Okay? And then disconnected teaching, learning and assessment. So what we're doing in the classroom is not actually connected with what the skills and the attributes and the knowledge that we want students to develop. So there's a complete disconnect there. So I'm just lecturing you in a monologue, but I expect you to be wonderful, active teachers. Okay? That's not going to happen. That's a complete disconnect. That's great, all of you, really capturing some of the things that we've been talking about over the last 6 months that I've been working with you. And sitting back there, I realise that this screen's virtually impossible to see, so that's my teaching skills improving. We've just got a few minutes left before coffee, so I just kind of want to go through kind of where we're going through this module. While you were working there, I was thinking about how we can sort out some peer review stuff. So I think we will do a micro teach probably on Wednesday morning, so I'm going to give you the information for that this afternoon, which kind of means we're going to flip things around a little bit. But I think it's important that you actually capture some of those stuff. I think it was lovely to see all of those ideas being captured in terms of thinking about how you're lecturing now, making that much more active, thinking about your assessment, making that much more formative. And the other one where things are being aligned, that's automatically happening by the fact that your processes in the classroom are being aligned to how you're assessing students and thinking about what it is you're actually wanting them to achieve. So that's great. And keep all those ideas with you as you go forward into your fellowship writing. Just to reiterate really then what the aims are for this module, we want to think about what we're doing. Over the last 2 modules we've talked about changing our practice, okay? And it's really wonderful for me to see that you've embraced these ideas and you're already trying them out in the classroom. But what if I was a complete mad woman? You may think I am anyway. And the ideas I'm giving you are not effective, or they don't work, or there's no evidence behind them. How do you know? How are you going to know that what you're doing is working? Okay? So you're going to change something. What evidence have you got for changing it? Hopefully it's not just listening to me and trusting me. But what other evidence have you got? And then once you've done it, how are you going to know that it's made a positive difference? Okay, so that's the sort of final piece. We are all academics. We all have that logical academic mind that says, right, okay, I want to see the evidence that this is effective, or this is the right way to go. So really, a big focus of this week is understanding how we know that things are going to be effective. And there's a wide range of ways of doing that. One of them is getting feedback from your students. One of them is getting the kind of the peer review from your colleagues. Another way, obviously, is kind of speaking to your line manager or a mentor or what have you. So there's lots of ways of thinking about is what I'm doing effective. Also, the kind of the quantitative thing, where you say, well, actually, all my students are now doing better in this assessment. But we all know, it's very difficult to measure impact like that because there's so many other things going on. So that's some of the ideas we're going to be exploring this week. Okay? And the other main aim is to get you all ready for your fellowship application. So I'm going to kind of drone on about that a little bit this week, kind of get you all frightened and think, oh my God, I've got to start writing, get you all motivated, get you all kind of actually putting pen to paper. Okay?